what's up? A croque madame is a French-style grilled ham and cheese sandwich topped with cheese sauce and a fried egg. And until this week, I had never made myself one at home, which is insane because they're super easy to make, they're incredibly delicious, and bring tons of joy. Today, I'm gonna show you how to make one. To get started, we'll need to make a Mornay sauce. That's the cheesed out version of the classic French mother sauce made from roux and milk called bechamel. To make it, I'll grab a small saucepan and drop it on the stove over medium heat. Once that's hot, in goes 30 grams of butter, and I'll let that get melted. There we go. Then in goes 10 grams of all-purpose flour, and I'll jump in and stir that to combine to make a thin roux. Thin meaning more butter than flour here, because in this sauce, the cheese is going to do most of the thickening, not the roux. Now, I'll cook this over medium heat for about a minute or so, or until the raw edge of the flour is sizzled off. Then in goes 240 grams of milk. I used whole milk, but skim would work if that's all you've got. Then I'll bring this up to a simmer, and as you can see, as this comes up, it does thicken up into a more saucy consistency, but it's still relatively thin. Next, the heat goes down to its lowest setting, then I'll add in my cheeses. The first of which is 60 grams of cave-aged gruyere. A good way to know if the gruyere you're buying has been properly aged is to look at the rind. See how it clearly looks like something that's been sitting in a cellar collecting mold and dust for like a year? That generally means that it's going to be full of that signature sharp, nutty gruyere flavor. If all you can find is the younger version of gruyere that they sell at the deli counter, that's totally fine, and I will be using that more mild variation later on. But a sub for aged gruyere, if you can't find it, is either aged Gouda or a younger white cheddar. The second cheese that I'm using here is going to be 30 grams of aged Parmesan cheese. This is a pre-ground 18-month version, and I like it in combination with the gruyere because it brings some deeper, salty umami flavors. Next, I'll jump into the saucepan and give this all a stir to combine and to gently melt the cheeses into the bechamel. In a Mornay, the bechamel is really just there to hold the cheeses in suspension so that the proteins inside of the cheese don't coagulate and curdle into an oily, disgusting mess. Once these cheeses have been slowly melted in over very low heat, the sauce should have a nice, smooth, satiny quality to it. Now I'll take it off the heat to finish it off. Over at my cutting board, I'll add in 5 grams of salt, then a little pinch of white pepper, and then I'll grab my microplane and a nutmeg and grate in about a quarter teaspoon's worth. Not a lot, basically. From there, I'll come back and stir those seasonings in, and there we go, a finished, beautiful Mornay sauce. It's cheesy, nutty, rich, creamy, and an amazing thing to know how to make for yourself at home. For now, the lid goes on, and I'll scoot this onto the back of my stove to stay warm while I sort out the next most important part of this sandwich, the bread. For this croque madame, I've got a loaf of my basic hearty homemade white bread. It's the French equivalent to something that would be called pain de mie, and that's essentially just a soft, slightly sweetened, slightly enriched bread. I've shown the process for this white bread specifically in at least 2 videos so far, and if you want to make it, which I think you might because it's super good and makes great sandwiches, I'll link to those videos in the description so that you guys don't miss out. Now, one of the main reasons that I like to make my own panned white bread for this sandwich is that I get to decide exactly how thick the slices are. And for this sandwich, I think they should be pretty thick. 3/4 of an inch approximately, or about double the thickness of a normal Wonder Bread slice. Thinner bread turns into a shingle when you toast it too hard. The store-bought option here would be something called Texas Toast. This Lewis brand actually makes pretty good croque madames, and it's actually the product that I use to test out the first few variations of this recipe. Compared to my white bread though, it's a little bit less substantial and it's almost too squishy. But the thing that matters most is that both of these options are cut thick and chunky because that makes for the best croque madame. Now to cook this thing, I'm going to preheat a large saute pan over medium heat, and then a small nonstick pan for the egg part over medium-low heat. I'll also preheat my oven to 375F because I've got a cool oven-based egg technique to show you in just a second. Next, I'll throw 3 to 4 tablespoons of butter into my nonstick pan and give that a second to melt down. Then I'll use that butter to brush liberally on both sides of my thick-cut homemade white bread. Don't be shy or skimp on this butter at all. This bread is going to soak up a bunch of it and won't toast evenly without it. Once I've got these well buttered up, I'm going to move them over to my medium heat 12-inch saute pan and give them a toast on the first side. That's going to take about a minute or so, and to give them the most even browning possible, I'm going to use a spatula to press that bread into the pan to ensure even contact. While I'm pressing this into the pan, I'm going to take a quick second to thank the sponsor of this video, Beam. In the past, I've tried a few different sleep aids with varied success, but Beam Dream actually seems to help me do sleeping. If you haven't heard of it, Beam Dream is a powdered bedtime drink that uses clinically proven ingredients like nano CBD, reishi mushrooms, magnesium, L-theanine, and melatonin to help you fall asleep and stay asleep. This stuff's been a total game changer for me in helping me recalibrate my system when I'm jet lagged, and I have no plans to travel without it in the future. I'm actually a little embarrassed to admit this, but I really look forward to Beam as a treat at the end of the day because it tastes good and I know it's gonna make me a sleepy boy. Right now, they've got a new seasonal gingerbread flavor that's like drinking a really nice liquid gingerbread cookie with some salt sprinkled on top. It tastes sweet, but I know I'm not chugging sugar right before bed because none of the Beam Dream flavors have added sugar. So if you need some help becoming a sleepy boy or girl, now through December 10th, you'll get 50% off your first month subscription and 20% off all following orders. This is Beam's best offer ever. So if you guys want this stuff, you're gonna need to stock up before the deal expires. After about 60 seconds or so, I'm gonna come back and flip these toasts over, and that's pretty good browning. I'm happy with that. So from there, I'm gonna come back and lay down 2 very thin slices of Black Forest ham on either side of the sandwich. This first toasted side is gonna be the inside, by the way. Oh, and when I say thin, as far as ham goes, I mean like just thicker than tissue paper. If the ham is too thick, it's gonna get sweaty inside the sandwich and won't unify with the melty cheese in the way that we want. Speaking of cheese, on top of that ham, I'm gonna lay down 1 thin slice of not aged gruyere on either side of the sandwich. I got this not aged stuff at the deli counter at the grocery store, by the way, and I went for it because in general, cheeses that are aged a lot melt less good. When I tried this sandwich with aged gruyere, it was just too funky, not gooey enough, and didn't work. If you can't find young gruyere at your deli counter, I would say sub in Swiss cheese or even American singles if you want ultimate gooiness. I love the combo of high-low here with fake cheese and nice aged Alpine Gruyere. Now I'm gonna let this Sammy cook gently on the backside while I cook the egg. So into the same pan that we melted the butter into earlier, I'm gonna add 1 single egg. Again, this pan was over medium heat and the white should start to bubble right away. I'll come back with a generous pinch of salt to season the yolk, and then I'll let this egg fry very gently for 20 to 30 seconds or until the white is nicely set on the bottom side. From there, I'll load this egg into my 375F oven to bake for 60 seconds. Alongside that, I'll drop my sandwich pan in to fully melt the cheese and finish toasting the bread. I'll check back in 1 minute. Remember that cheese sauce from a minute ago? Yes, now it's cooled a bit and has firmed up. So now over low heat, I'm gonna stir it to get it loosened up again. That shouldn't take more time than it takes for the egg to cook. Back at the oven, as you can see, the whole white is set now and the yolk is still a nice sunny side up. So I'll take it out. This egg in the oven technique is a restaurant trick that produces perfectly cooked sunny side up eggs every time. No need to worry about steaming it inside of a lidded pan with water. Just set the white and then throw the pan into a moderately hot oven for a minute. When I check back on my sandwich, the cheese is looking nice and gooey, so I'll move my cooked egg aside and pull the sandwich pan out of the oven. From there, I'll combine the melty sides, so the sandwich goes bread, ham, cheese, cheese, ham, bread. Then I'll scoot this over to a warm plate. I'll top that with 3 to 4 tablespoons of velvety, gooey, nutty Gruyere Mornay, and make sure to get some running off the side so that your thumbnail photo looks super sick. Then I'll top the cheese sauce with my perfectly cooked egg, then a few pinches of fresh chives for greenness, and a few cracks of black pepper for a little heat. And you guys, that is just beautiful food. The bread on this thing is double toasted, so we've got texture on the inside and the outside. We've got plenty of umami, funky cheesiness from the sauce. Pair that with some salty, sweet ham, some gooey, melty cheese on the inside, and of course, that rich, luscious yolk on top. For me, the Croque Madame is a legendary sandwich beyond comparison, and a great thing to make for someone you love. I hope you do that soon. Now, let's eat this thing.